Hello, my dear friends. Welcome back. Come in. Sit down for a moment. I'm glad you're here. Tonight I want to tell you about a man who did one of the most remarkable things I have ever come across in all my years of reading history. And then, for nearly 50 years, told absolutely no one about it. Not his friends, not his colleagues, not even his own wife. He simply put the paperwork in a box, pushed it to the back of the attic, and went on with his life, as if nothing had happened. What was in that box would eventually bring an entire television studio to its feet in tears. But we'll get there. First, let me take you back to the beginning. The year is 1938. December. Europe is sitting on the edge of something terrible, and most people can feel it, even if they don't yet have the words for it. Adolf Hitler's Germany has just annexed parts of Czechoslovakia. Jewish families in Prague are living in quiet, suffocating fear. They know what is coming. They have been watching it approach for years. Into this city arrives a 29-year-old British stockbroker named Nicholas Winton. He had originally planned to go skiing in Switzerland for the holidays. A friend convinced him to come to Prague instead. The friend was doing relief work with Jewish refugees, and he wanted Nicholas to see the situation for himself. Nicholas Winton saw it, and he could not look away. He visited the refugee camps. He met the families. He saw the children, hundreds of them, whose parents were desperate to get them out of the country before it was too late. Parents who understood, with a terrible clarity, that what was coming would be beyond anything the world had seen before. Parents who were willing to put their children on a train to a foreign country, into the care of strangers, never knowing if they would ever see them again, because even that was better than the alternative. Nicholas Winton was supposed to be on holiday. He was a stockbroker. He had no political connections, no government backing, no organization behind him. He was 29 years old, and he had come to Prague to go skiing. Instead, he set up a small office, in his hotel room at first. Then, at a dining table, he put a sign outside that said, Children's Section of the British Committee for Refugees from Czechoslovakia. He made that name up. There was no such committee. It was just him, a notebook, and a growing list of children who needed to get out. He wrote letters, hundreds of them, to governments, to organizations, to families in Britain who might be willing to take in a child. He needed host families, travel documents, money, train tickets, permission from the British government to bring foreign children into the country. Every single one of these things was a wall. Every single one of these walls, he found a way through. He went back to London in January 1939 and continued working from his desk during the day while doing his regular job as a stockbroker. In the evenings and on weekends, he worked on the children. He forged documents when he had to. He fundraised. He argued with bureaucrats. He found families willing to take in children they had never met. Between March and August of 1939, 8 trains departed from Prague, carrying Jewish children to safety in Britain. Nicholas Winton organized every single one of them. 669 children made it out. The 9th train was scheduled to depart on September 1st, 1939. It was the largest transport yet. Over 250 children were supposed to be on it. On September 1st, 1939, Germany invaded Poland. Britain declared war on Germany. The borders closed. The train never left the station. Nicholas Winton always said that the children on that 9th train were the ones he thought about most. For the rest of his life, he came home. He served in the Royal Air Force during the war. Afterward, he built a quiet, ordinary life. He worked. He got married. He raised a family. He volunteered with organizations that helped the elderly. He was, by all accounts, a decent and humble man who believed that if you saw something that needed doing, you simply did it. He never talked about Prague. He never told his wife Greta what he had done there. The documents, the photographs, the lists of children's names. He packed them all into a small suitcase and pushed it to the back of the attic. And there it sat for nearly 50 years. In 1988, Greta was clearing out the attic when she found the suitcase. She opened it. Inside were the photographs, the transport lists, the letters, the names of 669 children. She brought it to her husband and asked him what it was. He told her. For the first time, after almost 50 years of silence, he told her what he had done in Prague in the winter of 1938. Greta brought the documents to a Holocaust researcher. The story began to spread quietly, and eventually, it reached a BBC television program called That's Life, hosted by Esther Ranson. They invited Nicholas Winton onto the show. He was 79 years old. He came in and sat in the audience, not entirely sure what to expect. He knew they wanted to talk about what he had done in Prague. He had agreed to come on the program. He was, characteristically, a little uncomfortable with the attention. Esther Ranson turned to the camera. She explained to the viewing audience what this man had done 50 years ago. And then she asked a question to the people sitting in the studio that night. She asked if anyone in the audience owed their life to the man, sitting in the front row. My friends, I want you to picture this moment. Nicholas Winton turns to look at the audience around him. And one by one, and then all at once, almost every single person in that studio stands up. The children he had rescued, now adults in their 50s and 60s. Many of them with their own children beside them, their own grandchildren. Entire families who existed because of what this quiet, modest man had done at a dining table in a Prague hotel in 1938, while everyone else was going skiing. Nicholas Winton sits in his chair and looks at them, and he is completely undone. There are no words for what passes across his face in that moment. You can find the footage online, and I encourage you to watch it, because no description does it justice. He had saved them, and he had never once asked to be thanked. He had simply folded up the paperwork, put it in a suitcase, and gone on with his life for 50 years, as if it were nothing, as if it were simply what any reasonable person would have done. That is what makes this story extraordinary to me. Not just what he did, though. What he did was extraordinary, but the complete absence of any need for recognition. He did not do it to be called a hero. He did not do it to be remembered. He did it because children needed help, and he happened to be standing there. After the television appearance, Nicholas Winton became famous almost against his will. He gave interviews. He accepted honors. He was knighted in 2003, at the age of 93. He lived to be 106 years old, and he spent most of his final decades being deeply embarrassed by all the fuss people kept making over him. He died in July 2015. Among those who came to pay their respects were men and women who had been children on his trains, and their children, and their grandchildren. More than 6,000 people alive in the world today are believed to be direct descendants of the children Nicholas Winton rescued. 6,000 lives that trace back to a man who went to Prague on holiday and could not look away. My dear friends, I think about Nicholas Winton often, not just for what he did, but for what he reminds us about how goodness actually works in the world. We tend to imagine that the people who change history are the ones who set out to change history, the ones with grand plans and powerful connections, and the right platform at the right time. But Nicholas Winton was a 29-year-old stockbroker on a ski holiday. He had none of those things. He just had a notebook, a dining table, and the simple inability to see suffering and walk away from it. And he never asked for credit. For 50 years, not a single person knew. He went to work every morning and came home every evening, and never once said, "Do you know what I did? Do you know what I gave up? Do you know what I saved?" He just lived his life, quietly, decently, the way he always had. I think there's something in that for all of us. The good we do does not require an audience. It does not require recognition or applause or a television appearance. It just requires us to show up, to see what needs doing, and to do it. The studio full of standing people that came 50 years later without him ever asking for it. That is how goodness works, I think. Quietly. Slowly. And then, one day, it fills a room. Thank you so much for spending this evening with me, my dear friends. This one means a great deal to me. Until next time, take care of each other. That is always the answer. Good night.